I watched my uncle rise from the ground last spring. No hands on his knees. No chair to push against. Just up, like his legs had never once doubted him. He is past 80. That same week, I watched a man years younger struggle to stand from a kitchen chair, both hands on the table. A long breath before he tried, and another long breath after he finally stood. Same years on this earth, more or less, different bodies underneath them. You may have felt this in your own life. The stairs that used to be nothing. The jar lid that fights you now. The walk to the mailbox that asks more of you than it used to. More than it should at your age. You have probably been told this is just age. Maybe it is, in part. But age alone does not explain why one person carries water across a yard at 80 and another cannot rise from a chair at 65. Years pass the same for both of them. Strength does not leave both of them the same way, at the same speed. That difference is what I want to sit with today. Not to frighten you, just to look closely, the way the old ones used to look at things, long before they had names for what they saw happening, because they noticed this too. Long before anyone wrote it down in a book or gave it a word in a clinic somewhere far from home. They watched their elders closely, year after year. Some kept their grip strong into very old age. Others lost it early, even when they had once been the strongest in the camp, the fastest, the steadiest on their feet. The old ones wondered about this the same way you might be wondering right now, quietly, without anyone to ask. What made the difference? What separated the elder who still walked far into old age from the elder who had to be carried before their time? I want to walk through that with you slowly today. Not to give you one quick answer, because there isn't one simple answer. But there is something real underneath it, something steady and worth understanding. Something the old ones came to understand with their eyes, long before anyone understood it with instruments or charts. Let's look at it together, the way they once did. The old ones did not have a word for what happens to muscle as the years pass. They did not need one. They watched it instead, the way you watch weather change, or the way you watch a river shift with the seasons. They watched which elders kept their strength deep into old age, and which lost it sooner than seemed fair to anyone who loved them. They watched who could still walk the long way to the water, and who could not make it even halfway there. And they noticed something simple, repeated again and again, winter after winter. The ones who kept moving kept their strength. The ones who sat still lost it faster, and lost it harder than anyone expected. This was not a guess, written once and passed along without thought. It was watched closely, season after season, generation after generation. A body that works stays able to work. A body that rests too long forgets, little by little, how to be strong again. There is something else they came to understand, even without naming it the way it gets named now. As people age, the body has a harder time building back what it loses day to day. You can still grow strong later in life, even quite late, but it takes more care, more attention than it once asked of you in your younger years. Sit too still for too long. Eat too little of the right things day after day. And that loss moves faster than it has to, faster than it would otherwise. This was never a punishment from anywhere. It was simply how a body behaves when years pass and no one tends to it closely and with care. So communities built their lives around this quiet understanding. Elders were not set aside to rest while everyone else did the work. They were kept close to the work itself, woven into it. Not because anyone was unkind to them in any way, because staying useful kept them strong, and everyone around them understood that plainly, even the children watching. A grandmother still grinding corn was not being asked to prove anything to anyone. She was simply living in a way that kept her able, day after day. The work and the strength were never separate from one another. They held each other up quietly, without anyone remarking on it. This is the part that I think gets lost the most today, more than anything else. Not the food, though the food mattered greatly. Not even the walking, though that mattered too. Every single day. It was the staying needed. The being asked every day to do something with your hands and your legs and your whole self. So what did they lean on? Once they understood all of this clearly. Two things mostly. Nothing more complicated than that. Movement and food that fed real strength. Not exercise the way it is spoken of now, in a room full of machines and mirrors and people watching themselves. Movement that was simply life, lived at a steady and honest pace, walking to gather what was needed for the day, carrying water from the river again and again, working hides until they were soft and ready for use, grinding, lifting, kneading, bending, again and again, day after day, season after season. The hands and legs were rarely idle for very long. This is what kept legs steady under elders well into their later years, often far later than expected. Not a program written on paper somewhere, a life that quietly asked the body to keep doing small, useful things every single day, without ceremony, without anyone calling it exercise at all. And alongside that movement, there was the food itself. In the harder seasons, when fresh meat grew scarce and the cold stretched long and unforgiving across the land, people turned to something dense and lasting, something built to carry them through. Dried meat, pounded fine between stones, worked patiently by hand. Rendered fat, worked all the way through it until it held together. Sometimes dried berries mixed in for sweetness and for what they carried with them besides sweetness alone. This kind of food was known among Plains peoples and other northern indigenous communities for many generations, long before anyone ever wrote a recipe down on paper. A small piece of it could carry a person through a hard day of travel when no other food was close at hand for miles. I want to be plain with you here, because I respect you far too much not to be. This was not medicine. No one called it a cure for anything, then or now, and I will not call it that either. It was simply food built for endurance, made by people who could not afford to be weak when the season turned hard against them without warning. But notice closely what it gave them, all together. Steady meat, full of what muscle needs. Real fat, not stripped away or wasted. Small fruits, eaten alongside it for what they added. That combination, taken daily in small and steady amounts, fed bodies in a way that thin, watery meals never could manage on their own. Movement and food that feeds the muscle. That is the whole of it, really, when you sit with it long enough. Nothing hidden away in it, nothing that needs some secret to unlock or uncover. Just two old, plain truths lived out quietly, every single day, by people who had no other choice but to understand their own bodies fully. I think of an elder I once knew, though I will not give her a name here, because what I am about to share was true of so many women like her, not only one. She was still grinding corn well into her 80s, still walking to visit her sister, a mile each way, most mornings, rain or no rain at all. People asked her once why she did not rest more, now that she had surely earned the rest. She said resting too much carried its own quiet cost, one most people never thought to count carefully. Her hands needed the work, she told them plainly. Her legs needed the walk, just as much. She was not pushing herself to prove a single thing to anyone watching. She simply never stopped being useful to the people around her, and her body answered that faithfully, year after year. That is the part I think we have lost the most, even more than the food, even more than the movement itself in isolation. The staying needed, the being asked day after day, without question. When elders stopped being asked to do anything at all, many of them slowly stopped doing anything at all in turn, and a body that stops being asked to move, in time, slowly stops remembering how to move well, how to move with confidence. This is not about chasing the strength you carried at 30 years old. That is not what I am asking of you here today, and I would never ask that of you. It is about staying steady enough to rise from your own chair without two hands gripping the table, steady enough to carry your own water from the car to the door without fear, steady enough to walk to your mailbox without your heart racing the whole way back home. That is not a small thing, even though it may sound small when I say it so plainly to you. That is most of what a good, independent life is quietly built from, day after day, without anyone noticing until it is gone from them. So let me say simply what I have shared with you today, in case any small part of it slipped past you while you listen closely. Strength fades faster when a body sits still for too long without being asked for anything. The old ones saw this clearly, long before it ever had a name in any language spoken anywhere. They answered it with two plain things, nothing more complicated than that, nothing hidden behind it. Daily movement, built quietly into ordinary life, without ceremony, and food made dense with real meat, with real fat, and with a little fruit to feed the effort the body was making every day. I want to say one more time clearly, because it matters more than anything else I have told you today. This is not a cure for anything. It is not a replacement for your doctor, or for the care a real exam could give you when something feels truly wrong inside you. If your strength has changed quickly, or worries you in the quiet hours of the night, please still go and be seen by someone who can look closely. What I am sharing with you walks alongside that care gently. It does not stand in its place, and it never should try to. What I am offering you today is older than any of that, older than clinics, older than written medicine of any kind. A way of living that kept elders steady for generations upon generations, long before any of this had a name at all. Small movement every single day, without ceremony or fuss. Food that feeds the muscle itself, not just the appetite passing through. And staying close to the work of your own life, for as long as your body still allows you to. Next time, I want to show you what the old ones did when the cold came early, and food itself grew harder to find than usual that year. There is a quiet wisdom in how they prepared for that, long before it ever arrived at their door uninvited. Stay close, so you don't miss it when it comes. What the land gave freely, we are only now learning to receive again, slowly, together.